This is not a press conference to get press. This is a press conference to save lives. I realize I've become a broken record on the need to do what we can do to effectively protect the lives of the men and women we have in theater, both in Afghanistan, but particularly in Iraq. What an MRAP is really a vehicle designed to be a heck of a lot better protection than the Humvees and the up-armored Humvees. We have our soldiers and Marines and some Navy personnel riding around. And an MRAP is a mine-resistant vehicle we're talking about here, meaning that there are ways to better protect our soldiers in the field. South Carolina and Charleston in particular ought to be very proud because they have two companies down here who have produced and are producing and have the capacity to produce considerably more of these vehicles, which are considerably better and more capable of protecting our troops in the field. 70% of all the deaths and 70% of the casualties in Iraq are caused by these improvised devices you hear people talk about. As early as I've learned now, as early as 2002, the Marine Corps said we desperately need another kind of vehicle other than the Humvee. And specific specifications were laid out, I later learned, and sent to the Pentagon and buried somewhere in the Pentagon in February of 2003 that called for a little over 1,800 of these, and with very specific requirements and specifications. How many pounds per square foot on a blast, on a corner of a vehicle, the middle of a vehicle, etc. So the idea that we had a general in Iraq saying, by the way, build me a better vehicle, and that's all he said, is malarkey. They were very specific about what they knew they needed, and that got buried. And so we're now at a point where, now that everybody knows, we have the technology and capability to build considerably safer vehicles for those men and women we have riding around trying to deal with the situation in Iraq and Afghanistan. All of a sudden, the military is deciding that they need a lot more of these vehicles. And now the generals in Iraq say we need 15,200 more of these vehicles. And as some of you know, that back in March, when the request was for 7,774 so-called MRAPs, I was able to convince the Senate to add an amendment in the House in turn of $1.5 billion in money to the so-called supplemental bill. That is, money to continue to fund our efforts in Iraq for the remainder of this fiscal year. At the time, some of my colleagues and some of the military told me, Joe, we don't want to spend that much money, we don't have that much money, or the producers can't make these vehicles if in fact we give them the money. And my answer was, I got a 4-star Marine general, his name is Conway, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, who's telling me that it is the single highest moral imperative, his words, the single highest moral imperative he has as the Commandant of the Marine Corps is to build these vehicles as fast and as rapidly as they can. And I've got two beliefs of my own. First, for every single solitary Marine or soldier who's under fire, they deserve the absolute best protection we can provide. And as General Conway said, we have no alternative but to provide it for them. Now, the second argument I heard is that we can't build these rapidly enough, so why go out and spend the money? And when it comes to American companies, I have a single answer for everybody. You pay for it, they'll build it. You put out the contracts, they'll build it. They're capable of building it. And for the life of me, I couldn't figure out why folks didn't want to take a chance that you could get these MRAPs to our soldiers and the Marines a heck of a lot sooner than the projected 5 years down the road for this new vehicle, this Joint Strike Force vehicle the Army is talking about building. And I mean, the only way that I've ever heard to increase the production of a military vehicle is put money in front of the vehicle. Put money in front of the vehicle. These are two, you're going to hear from two company representatives representing two different companies. who build these vehicles. You're going to hear from them that the lead time for them to be able to get the steel, get the parts, get everything they need, and the lead time for them to ramp up with enough personnel to be able to increase the production line is lead time. And they're not about to go out there, nor should they, go out and ramp up their workforce, ramp up their facilities without having a contract, knowing that they're going to be able to build these vehicles. And I would say to those who say, no, let's not build a vehicle until we're definitely sure we have the capacity, is what's the downside? You put money out in front, you challenge the industry to move faster, and they don't get every single vehicle you wanted built by the date you wanted. So maybe you have to say it's okay to pay some of the bills next year. I might not like it, but I can live with that. What I can't live with is Americans coming home in body bags, missing literally limbs, missing their parts of their bodies, and also coming home with these severe brain traumas that they have. That's the part I can't live with. That's the part I can't live with. And when we have a Pentagon spending $10 billion a month on the war in Iraq with a failed strategy, it seems to me that we surely can afford to go out and begin to give lead contracts to begin to build the number of vehicles we need to protect our forces. General Gates came to the Congress this week and said that the money we needed for the supplemental that we added, that the Biden amendment added, has worked. Production capacity has grown faster than they thought it would, and they only need an additional $1.2 billion to keep the momentum going for this year before we come up with next year's budget. And what they're doing is they're reprogramming. They're reprogramming within the Defense Department. They're taking money, they're robbing Peter to pay Paul. They think it's so important to build these vehicles. They're taking $1.2 billion from other parts of the budget and moving them into these vehicles. But what's lagging behind is letting the contracts. The contracts have to be let. The contracts, and this is the first time I met these gentlemen. I'm not here to represent any company. I'm here to say we better get the damn ball rolling. I'm here to say that we better let some of these contracts, based on the technology we know they possess and they can build, while we're working on building the perfect vehicle. We can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And every one of these vehicles, pick any one of these vehicles. If our kids were riding around in these vehicles instead of the ones in the field, there'd be a lot fewer people dead today, a lot fewer people injured today. Now, I'm sure I'm going to be told, that's a whole lot of money, and Biden, you're just spending $24 billion without knowing what you get. I know what I'm going to get. I'm going to get a whole lot of people coming home in one piece, rather than body bags, spending this $24 billion. Can I guarantee you which of these vehicles will be the best? Can I guarantee you that 3 years from now we don't have one consistent and one uniform vehicle we've all decided on? No, I can't guarantee you that. But I can guarantee you we better move now. We better be moving now to build more of these vehicles. So the president, if he makes this a national priority, he can get the companies to respond. And so companies like Force Protection and Protected Vehicles and all of their employees, they're ready to go. And I believe in them, and I believe in the American business and free enterprise system that, again, if you put money in front of this, they'll ramp up, they'll take the chances needed to be able to build more of these vehicles. But you can't expect them to go out there with the limited funds they have, go ahead and ramp up without a contract and hope that the military is going to come along at some point and decide they're going to spend the money. Even if we decide to get out of Iraq tomorrow, it's going to take us 10 months to physically get everybody out of Iraq. If we decided tomorrow, and we got 160,000 troops there, people dying unnecessarily, and if money is the thing standing in the way, then shame on us. Shame on us.